Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2022. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lee Joo-hee, and it is truly a great honor and privilege to be leading you through today's program. Inaugurated in 2001 and already celebrating its 17th anniversary, the Jeju Forum has served as a platform for multilateral collaboration, examining ways to realize peace and prosperity here on the Korean Peninsula and in East Asia. Today, the world is mired in multiple conflicts and crises, and this year's forum, being held under the theme, Beyond Conflict, Towards Peace, Coexistence, and Cooperation, will present us with a timely opportunity to find the way toward peace and renew the spirit of coexistence and cooperation with all of the global leaders and experts joining us. As is the case every year, this year a very distinguished group of dignitaries has joined us and graced us with their presence. I would now like to take a minute to introduce them. When I introduce them, please welcome them with a very warm round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, the 5th President of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency Megawati Soekarno Putri, has joined us. The 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. And the Governor of the State of Maryland, the Honorable Larry Hogan. Chairman of International Peace Foundation, Mr. Kim Sung-hwan. The Chairman of Jeju Special Self-Governing Provincial Council, the Honorable Kim Kyung-hak. President of the Jeju Peace Institute, Mr. Han In-taek. And last but not least, the host of the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity, Governor of Jeju, the Honorable Oh Young-hoon. We ask for your kind understanding that due to time constraints, we are not able to introduce everyone, but on behalf of our host, I would like to once again sincerely thank everyone for joining us at this opening ceremony. And now to officially kick off this year's forum, it is my pleasure and honor to now invite the Chairman of the Jeju Forum Organizing Committee, Governor Oh Young-hoon, to the podium for his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Governor with a very warm round of applause.
평화와 번영을
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen who came to Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity, I sincerely welcome all of you and nice to meet you. I'm Governor Oh Young-hoon of Jeju Special Self-Governing Province. Overcoming the unprecedented viral crisis of COVID-19 pandemic, we are delighted to be able to come face to face together to discuss a new future. Thank you for coming all the way to attend the 17th Jeju Forum, Honorable Larry Hogan, Governor of Maryland, and Mrs. Hogan, Her Excellency Soekarno Putri, former Indonesian President, the 8th UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. It is an honor to have with us leaders, scholars, and experts from all over the world. This year, we have invited the ambassadors from ASEAN. My heart is thrilled to be able to discuss the idea of envisioning the cooperative community for Jeju ASEAN Plus Alpha. Honorable guest from home and abroad, COVID-19, which has swept across the globe, is demanding greater wisdom from mankind. allegedly caused by climate change represented by global warming, the virus took more lives than war, regardless of nationality, religion, and race. Perhaps it was a disaster caused by human arrogance that they conquered the nature. The lesson the virus has taught mankind is that we must abandon greed and live together. Recognizing the greatness of the nature with a self-recovering ecosystem, our mission and responsibility is to restore a new global village of destiny that can secure the right to survival of mankind while respecting the nature. The Jeju Forum, which celebrates its 17th anniversary this year, will be the starting point for opening the new future called Restorations of the Global Community of Life. The reality represented by the age of uncertainty and chaos is not easy. Leaving behind the lessons of COVID-19, conflicts over hegemony are exploding all over the world. Russian invasion of Ukraine, conflict between Taiwan and China, escalating tensions between the U.S. and China, the long-standing Israel and Palestinian conflict is also aggravating. It is no exaggeration to call it the new Cold War era. As the era of Cold War ends, the global village entered the era of detente, but now it is engulfed in a new Cold War for the first time in 30 years and is plunged into a vortex of crisis. We are once again faced with an ordeal that threatens world peace and humanity. In addition, climate change disasters are becoming more frequent and darkening the future of the global village. Perhaps what we are concerned most about is the worst-case scenario, the collapse of community of mankind and the nature. That is why this Jeju Forum is more important than ever before and deserves attention. We need to share the seriousness of the problems that threaten the global peace and world order and seek solution together to create a new community of mankind for peace and prosperity. The Soviet Union President Mikhail Gorbachev, who visited Jeju Island in April 1991 to hold the Korea-Soviet Union summit, passed away recently. He ended the Cold War of 30 years ago, and ushered us to the detente era. The deceased participated the Jeju Forum held last year virtually and made meaningful suggestions. I'll read the teachings of the deceased. Quote, instead of excessive military spending, the international community should devote resources to solving problems such as COVID-19. By restructuring the international order, all citizens of the world should lead a safe life and life where we live harmoniously with nature. Unquote. Respected domestic and foreign distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we have to move into the new future. It is a world where nature and humans live happily together. We look forward to more hopeful proposals through the continuing discourse during this Jeju Forum. Jeju, the island of world peace, is sublimating the April 3rd incident, a historical tragedy occurred 70 years ago, into reconciliation and coexistence. Hope for the era of global green detente that creates a new world peace order will sprout here in Jeju. The direction humanity is heading is clear. We must create a world in which world and nature are happy through solidarity and cooperation between people of the world, transcending the border. This is also the reason why the 8th popularly elected Jeju provincial government set the goal as Jeju, where people and the nature are happy, as the goal. It is the universal value and the direction of mankind regardless of region, race, and generation. Once again, I sincerely welcome and express my gratitude to welcome you all to Jeju Island, the island of world peace and treasure. We hope that you can fully experience the true value of Jeju Island, where people and the nature are happy together while you are in Jeju. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
네, 오영은 도지.
Also, your inspiring opening speech. We hope that the Jeju Forum will help pave the way toward a future that is more prosperous and where man and nature coexist in harmony. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I move on to the next part of our program, there are two additional distinguished guests that I would like to introduce. The first is Mr. Kim Kwang-soo, the Superintendent at the Office of Education here in Jeju. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. And also an ambassador to Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Yumi Hogan, the First Lady of the State of Maryland. Thank you. Well, it's time for keynote speeches from global leaders on the theme of this year's Jeju Forum, Beyond Conflict Towards Peace, Coexistence, and Cooperation. But before we move on to the keynote speeches, first, His Excellency Han Duck-soo, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea, has sent us a special video message. Why don't we take a look together?
존경하는 제주도민 여러분,
Honorable residents of Jeju, distinguished guests, congratulations on Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2022. I would like to thank Honorable President Jose Ramos Horta of East Timor, President Megawati Sukarno Putri of Indonesia, the 8th UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon, and Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland State of the US, and distinguished guests from home and abroad. Welcome all of you to this wonderful island of Jeju. Jeju Forum was launched in 2001, and it has been positioned as one of the mainstream leading global international forum for peace and prosperity around the world. I would like to thank the residents of Jeju, Governor Oh Young-hoon, and all the staff members for successfully pulling together this wonderful forum this year. Distinguished guests from home and abroad, the international circumstances are in a severe state. Over the past 30 years, we have pursued peace and prosperity, but they're being shaken at the core now. Ukrainian war, the tension between the US and China, climate change, pandemic, food crisis, energy crisis, they are complicated challenges, truly unprecedented in their nature. Against such new crisis, individual countries or individual approach cannot be successful. The international community must come together in close cooperation in coping with the new challenges. Distinguished guests from home and abroad, Republic of Korea is one of the biggest beneficiaries of free democracy around the world. We respect human rights, democracy. We are a powerful country in terms of technology and culture around the world. Based on such achievements, we are very much willing to work with like-minded countries around the world, pursuing prosperity and peace around the world. I would like to ask for your continued support and interest in our pursuit of peace and prosperity around the world. Once again, congratulations on the opening of Jeju Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'd like to thank His Excellency Han Duck-soo, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea, for sending a special video message and congratulating the opening of this year's Jeju Forum. Next, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of Timor-Leste, His Excellency Jose Ramos Horta, has also sent his keynote speech for the Jeju Forum. Why don't we take a look together?
Good morning, good afternoon, dear Excellencies in Jeju Island. My special greetings to the Governor of the special self-governing province of Jeju, Governor Oh Young-hoon. My warmest greetings to all else who are participating in this important conference Beyond Conflict Towards Peace, Coexistence and Cooperation. I am an old friend of the Republic of Korea. I have visited the Republic of Korea maybe 20, 30 times already over the last 20 years. And I have been to Jeju, having participated in the 2018 Jeju conference. Today, I regret I'm not able to join you in person, but I am sending this message of friendship, of fraternity, to all of you attending the conference and all of you in this beautiful tropical province of Jeju, and all of you in the Republic of Korea and elsewhere in the region. Timor-Leste is a good example of how to overcome conflict, how to heal the wounds of wars, of past conflicts, how not to allow ourselves to be victims, to be hostages of the tragic memories of the past. When we are engaged in conflict, in a war imposed on us, many of our family members, many of our neighbors, friends, thousands of people perish in the conflict. Thousands suffer torture, imprisonment. All of these leave deep marks in ourselves, in our relatives, those who survive us. And in many instances, they are not able to forget. No one is asking anyone to forget. What we believe is necessary, and that is the example of Timor-Leste, the experience of Timor-Leste is, of course, we cannot forget the wounds of the past. But what we can do is not to allow the tragedy of the past, the suffering of the past, to dominate our feelings of today. So Timor-Leste today reconcile among ourselves, Timorese who fought each other, who killed each other 20, 30, 40 years ago. But also we have reconciled, we walk over and met up with our Indonesian friends, brothers, sisters, our neighbors. We have reconciled with all other countries that in the past were against us. Because we understand to honor our own heroes, the victims of the past, we must build a safe, peaceful society, safe, peaceful country. We have to build a prosperous economy so that the children, the grandchildren of the victims of the past have a better future than their grandparents. So we cannot continue to be hostage of the violence, of the sadness, of the tragedies of the past. So we reach out to each other in Timor-Leste, we reconcile. Timor-Leste has no political violence, no persecution of people involved in the violence of the past. We have the best possible relationship with Indonesia. Indonesia is among our best friends in the region. Very soon, with Indonesia's support, but support to all other ASEAN countries, Timor-Leste will join ASEAN. As the 11th member, will be part of a community of 700 million people, a community with a joint GDP of $4 trillion. So ample opportunity for Korean companies, banks, insurance companies, pharmaceutical industries, cosmetic, fashion, to set up factories in Timor-Leste. So I invite Koreans, please to come and visit us, and with us, build a new prosperous economy in Timor-Leste. We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations. I was the one, as Foreign Minister of Timor-Leste, which signed diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea. In the last 20 years, we have celebrated prosperous progress on exceptionally good relationship. We must build up more for the future of Timor-Leste, for the future of Korea. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank the President for his keynote speech and for sharing with us the experiences of Timor-Leste. As the laureate of the Nobel Peace Prize in 1996, I believe that His Excellency has shown by example the importance of reconciliation in building peace. So thank you very much for that keynote speech. Next, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to now invite the 5th President of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency Megawati Soekarno Putri, to the podium for her keynote speech. Please join me in welcoming Her Excellency with a very warm round of applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Yang terhormat Presiden Jeju Forum yang juga sebagai Gubernur Jeju, Yang Mulia Mr. Oh Yung.
May the peace and mercy, blessing of God Almighty be with you. Please allow me to express my deepest gratitude and appreciation for this opportunity as a keynote speaker at this very important event, Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity.
Yang terhormat mantan.
The discussion for the world peace is so urgent in the midst of various geopolitical issues at this time. The Russia-Ukraine war is not over yet.
Perkenankanlah saya mengucapkan terima kasih.
And there is new tension in the world now as conflicts in Middle East region and tension in South China Sea.
Sangat penting ini. Pembahasan.
So it is a great honor for me to participate in this forum as a keynote speaker. And the Ukraine-Russian war is not over yet, and now there is a new tension in the Taiwan Strait, as well as the conflict in Middle East, South China Sea, Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bomb, and also the effort to create peace on this peninsula. Our history of world civilization has faced so many great wars in the past. The First World War and the Second World War are examples of how in the modern era there were great wars that caused prolonged misery and suffering. War has blinded our humanity. Try to imagine the number of victims. The World War I caused 10 million victims who have died, and other 21 million people were injured. The Second World War caused 60.5 million victims to fall from about 50 countries involved. The impact of the war was so terrible, not to mention the history of the past tragic wars. The reflective questions for all of us with these wars are: the world is still blinded by the ambition or desire to build the hegemony of a certain country without knowing the end. Then where is this sense of humanity, and where is the wisdom of world leaders that peace becomes difficult to realize? Then from this Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2022, we will call together for Stop the War. The war will only cause sufferings towards humanity. The Jeju's message for peace must be echoed throughout every corner of the world. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, eternal peace is one of the goals of the Indonesian nation. We have a credo. The independence is an ultimate in the ultimate right of all nations. This is a task for all of us. The independence is the ultimate right of all nations, so colonialism in the world must be abolished because it is not in accordance with humanity and injustice. World peace can only be realized if every country respects the sovereignty of another country and upholds humanity, justice in the international system, and prioritizing conflict resolution through negotiations. Learning from this history, when the world was divided into two warring blocs, Asian and African nations made important contribution with the Asian-African Conference and the non-aligned movement, which became the answer to the Cold War. The spirit of the conference remains relevant today. The spirit that bridges peace and creates solidarity between nations to unite and to end all forms of war and acts of violence in the name of a country's national interest. Ladies and gentlemen, on the view of our founding father and the first president, Indonesia, Ahmed Sukarno, as long as the world is still colored by injustice and colonialism in all its forms, the international system will also always be anarchic. In his speech at the United Nations in 1960, known as "To Build the World Anew," President Sukarno called for the importance of strengthening the authority of the United Nations in creating peace. The condition is that the United Nations must carry out internal reforms by placing every member of the United Nations on an equal footing without any preference for veto rights. I strongly believe this is the true democratization on all the world's institutions. In this effort, in order to strengthen the entire philosophical foundation of the birth of the United Nations, President Sukarno proposed Pancasila as part of the UN Charter. Pancasila are the 5 basic principles consisting of belief in God, belief in humanity, nationality, democracy, and social justice. The 5 principles are universal. With Pancasila, global kinship can be awakened so that all nations can live side by side in peace and fight together for a more prosperous justice. Through Pancasila, we can enhance our belief in God, belief in humanity, nationality, democracy, and social justice. Distinguished guests, the main idea to realize the new world order remains relevant in any situation, probably more so now than ever. A world of peace, prosperity, and justice is the voice of all people of the nation, the voice of mankind without exception. Through this Jeju Forum, let us join hands in solidarity with nations who yearns for a long-lasting peace. Let's make that whole commitment to peace start from here, from Jeju, the land of peace. It is also hoped that from Jeju, the spirit of realizing true brotherhood between South Korea and North Korea as one nation, one family, is also expected. I personally have always struggled for this. Like in a family, problems must be resolved amicably without interference from any other party. And this is what I believe the Korean people should do. I believe from this beautiful island of Jeju, the light of peace will shine brighter and stronger. The light of peace will guide all the leaders of the world to be wiser and to put forward the way of negotiation, the way of deliberation, in order to end the war and various tensions that occur. It is because the world really feels the impact of war, considering that we are all in this one world, we are all interconnected, interdependent, and we are all in need of each other. The environment crisis as a result of global warming, the energy crisis, food crisis, and the threat of a world recession that we are suffering from have taught us how serious the impact of war can be. From there, we learned that war in one corner of the world can bring serious consequences and problems to other parts of the world. Because of that, let's stop the war and let us invigorate the energy of peace with full confidence. This is the historic task that can be inscribed from the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. So Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2022 will help us find the way to achieve global peace and prosperity. We'll be able to strengthen our enthusiasm and energy and passion for peace. This is truly a historical challenge and task given to us. So, from there, we can learn the lessons of the past and let us reaffirm our commitment to peace through Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. Thank you very much. May you all be blessed with peace and mercy from Almighty God. Om Santi, 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 Om.
A passionate and inspiring speech, and we hope that the Jeju Forum will become a catalyst for spreading the message that we must stop war and suffering and build lasting peace. So thank you very much for your speech. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now invite His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his keynote speech. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency with a very warm round of applause.
Honorable Oh Young-hun, Governor of Jeju Self-Governing Province, Her Excellency Megawati Sukarno-Putri, Honorable Larry Hogan and Yumi Hogan, Governor of Maryland of the United States, Dr. Han In-taek, President of the Jeju Peace Institute, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me offer my sincere congratulations on the opening of this 17th Jeju Forum, which comes at a significant juncture as we strive to galvanize global partnership efforts to move beyond conflict and towards peace through coexistence and cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in an unprecedented era of new overlapping crises and elevated global uncertainty. The illegal Russian aggression of Ukraine represents one of the most dangerous moments for global security in decades. At the same time, ongoing political conflicts between the United States and China is a source of increased concern. Nuclear and cyber threats are more serious in the vortex of war and confrontation. Emerging technologies present us new challenges to use them more wisely. On top of this unnerving political situation, last Thursday, September 8, North Korea's Supreme People's Assembly, SPA, adopted a new law stipulating that North Korea will, I quote, automatically and immediately launch a nuclear strike to attack the origin of any provocation if the command and control system of its nuclear forces is in danger, unquote. During the SPA meeting, Kim Jong-un, North Korean leader, was quoted as having said that there will be, again I quote, absolutely no denuclearization, no negotiation, and no bargaining chip to trade, unquote. Such North Korean behavior is a blatant challenge against international norms, including the NPT regime, not to mention the Charter of the United Nations. The international community, led by the United Nations Security Council and whole member states of the United Nations, must take firm measures against North Koreans' such behavior. In addition to these security and peace issues, climate change, COVID-19 pandemic are still threatening us, affecting all human beings, and therefore require global response. Global crises have underlined our interconnectedness. They have also made it clear that we need global solutions to holistically address the great challenges that we are now unprecedentedly facing in human history. And such solutions must be rooted in coexistence and global partnership, and centered on enhancing peace, health, resilience, and prosperity for everyone, everywhere. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, then how can we move beyond conflict on a sustainable path towards peace? I am of the view that we must elevate our common efforts in the following three crucial spheres. First, the United Nations and its member states must do more to address the multidimensional fallout and transnational spillover from the deplorable ongoing war in Ukraine. Since Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine began on February 24th, around 6,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed and 15 million people have been either internally displaced or become refugees. I remain deeply concerned again about the Russian shelling around Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Civil nuclear power plants must be safely protected under any circumstances. In my capacity as a vice chair of the elders, together with the former Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos, a Nobel Peace Laureate, I visited myself Ukraine on August 16 and met with President Zelensky and other leaders of the Ukrainian government to demonstrate our solidarity with the Ukrainian and her people. In Kyiv, I stressed that neutrality in this situation is not an option. I am concerned by the fact that most countries around the world, except a few, European Union and United States, some in Asia, including Japan and Republic of Korea, are keeping silence in this unacceptable violation of the United Nations Charter and international human rights, humanitarian law. The very respectable, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was also a Nobel Peace Laureate, he said that if one keeps silence in the case of injustice, this means that one is joining the side of the oppressor. How relevant it is. We must show our solidarity. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the tragedy of this criminal war is not restricted to the region. It has multiplying global impact. I have stated in my capacity as former Secretary General, repeatedly many times in the past, now again, that justice will prevail. If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, surely in the near future. We must make sure that we have to work for justice in such a case. In addition to that, energy costs are soaring all over the world, particularly in Europe. Recently, Russia halted gas supplies to Europe, leaving Europe vulnerable as it tries to replenish its energy storage ahead of the coming winter. In response, the European Union has already called upon its member states to voluntarily reduce their gas consumption by 15% in the fall and winter. But even that might not be enough. I am concerned by the possibility of some countries returning to fossil fuels. This is again very foolish, very worrisome. I know that we have to have energy. We have to have something to eat. But if we go back to fossil fuel again, that we are repeating the same mistakes which we have been making mistakes. At the same time, food prices, hunger, famine risks are spiraling. For some time, Russia blockaded the Black Sea to disturb Ukrainian grain export. As consequences, a domino effect has emerged in the global food market alongside export controls from India, Argentina, and others. In this regard, I commend the leadership of my successor, Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and President of Turkey, Erdogan, for their initiative and facilitation to have made possible through this Black Sea Grain Initiative, so that African people who have been suffering from famine are now being able to have something to eat. Ladies and gentlemen, against this backdrop, all stakeholders must step up support for the essential work of the World Food Programme, UNICEF, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, UNHCR, and others who are providing relief on the various front lines of this deepening global food crisis. Second, we must elevate effective efforts to bolster global health security, to persevere over existing threats and prepare for new ones in this new age of pandemic. COVID-19 and other viruses of newly elevated concern, such as monkeypox, have brought into focus the health and security implications of biodiversity loss. As biodiversity and habitats are seriously disturbed due to environmental destruction, wild animals have increasingly come into contact with the humans. Indeed, nearly all the viruses that emerged in the 21st century, from SARS in 2003, MERS 2013, Ebola 2014, to COVID-19 today, are infectious diseases that jumped between animals and humans. As such, the climate crisis and pandemics are two sides of the same coin. Both are transnational challenges that require global cooperation based on multi-stakeholder approach. Third, we should better interlink national and global recoveries to climate action and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals with 17 goals. Indeed, we need to elevate multi-stakeholder partnership action to achieve the United Nations goals, namely the Paris Climate Change Agreement and the 2030 Agenda with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Personally, I am honored and I'm also proud to have prioritized these two global goals, Climate Change Agreement and SDGs, during my time as the Secretary General of the United Nations. The climate crisis is here and now with us, and it will go down to our succeeding generations as vividly exemplified as by biblical floodings, historic droughts, rising sea levels, and boiling heat waves. Even though the energy landscape has been fundamentally reshaped by the war in Ukraine, we should not respond to it by expanding the use of additional fossil fuel, as I have repeatedly said, such as coal, but instead putting efforts into achieving the clean energy transition. We urgently need elevated ambition and action in the key areas of mitigation, adaptation, innovation, and finance to implement the Paris Climate Change Agreement and save our planet Earth. I have been repeatedly saying that we don't have a plan B. We have just a plan A because we do not have planet B either. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, despite this new era of multiple crises, we must remain optimistic and future-oriented and construct a more robust and inclusive multilateralism, one enriched with a key multi-stakeholder collaboration. As such, it is essential that we raise the level of political ambition. It's very important that any political leaders, particularly, they have to raise their political level, ambitions, to work for this climate change and sustainable development goals. These UN global goals to rise to the challenges from the war in Ukraine, build back better and greener in the post-COVID-19 era, and spur critical climate action. With your vital efforts and combined efforts, and I'm confident that we can harness this time of turbulence as a gateway towards a more peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous post-COVID world for. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us work together to make this world better for our succeeding generation. This is the main purpose of this Jeju Forum 2022, and this is our moral and political responsibility. I count on your action and work together. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that very enlightening speech, and for providing us with deep insight into which three areas where we can increase our international cooperation and efforts. Next, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to now invite Larry Hogan, the Honorable Governor of the State of Maryland, to deliver his keynote speech. Please join me in welcoming the Governor with a very warm round of applause.
Good morning. Kamsahamnida. Thank you very much. I want to begin by expressing my appreciation to Governor Oh, the Jeju Forum, all of the organizers, the people of Jeju and Korea for their very warm welcome and hospitality. It's truly an honor to be on the stage with all of these leaders and to be amongst so many leaders here today. I just want to first of all single out the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, not just for his remarks preceding mine, but for his incredible leadership and service to working toward the goal of peace and prosperity. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We appreciate the enduring alliance and the special relationship between the Republic of Korea, the state of Maryland, and the United States of America. We're here on a week-long trade mission to Korea as we continue to strengthen the partnership between our two regions. And I'd like to take a moment to again recognize my beautiful wife Yumi, the Maryland's First Lady, who grew up in Jeollanam-do province here in Korea and who you heard from earlier. I'm so proud of her. Yumi is proud of her Korean heritage, and she does a great job of representing the people of Maryland and the United States. So I'm also proud to be called a Hanguk Sawi, a son-in-law of Korea. But we are both grateful for this opportunity to join with so many distinguished leaders who share the same goal of a more peaceful and prosperous future for all. Jeju truly is a global symbol of peace and prosperity. In 1991, South Korean President Roh Tae-woo invited Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev for an historic and meaningful summit here. He was the first Soviet leader to visit South Korea. And just a few years prior, such a meeting would have been unthinkable. In the 70s and 80s, the Soviet Union was on the march and was violently occupying Afghanistan and shot down a Korean airline passenger plane, tragically killing 269 innocent people. The threat of nuclear conflict was strong, and some wondered whether the free world had perhaps seen its moment in the sun. And during that time, I was working for Ronald Reagan's campaign for president. And Reagan was strongly rejecting the pessimism that had infected our politics. And he believed in the power of a determined and confident free people. He called on the free world to, quote, not just contain communism, but to transcend communism with a crusade for freedom that will engage the faith and fortitude of the next generation. Reagan said, for the sake of peace and justice, let us move to a world in which all people are at least free to determine their destiny. He worked with America's allies to push back on the rising tide of communism and to put the Soviet Union on its heels. And he was able to secure peace through strength by working together with Mikhail Gorbachev to end the Cold War without a single shot being fired. In a Nobel lecture, Gorbachev described what he and Reagan knew, but few others understood. Gorbachev said, to a casual observer, the Soviet Union seemed to present a picture of relative well-being, stability, and order. The misinformed society under the spell of propaganda was hardly aware of what was going on and what the immediate future had in store for it. Today, we are once again at a pivotal moment in world history. Russia has invaded a peaceful neighbor in Ukraine. North Korea and Iran are emerging nuclear powers and reckless aggressors. China threatens Taiwan, seeking to intimidate Asia and the world. And many are concerned about whether the free world still has the will to lead. To those who are once again doubting the free world, I say, do not bet against freedom and democracy. People all across the world still yearn to live in freedom. President Zelensky and the brave people of Ukraine have reminded the world of the power of the human heart that yearns to be free. The historic success of America's development and deployment of COVID-19 vaccines affirms that innovation and prosperity cannot be dictated by any centralized government state. Now, images of a divided America have been amplified by our adversaries to cast into doubt whether America can or still can or will be united behind its core values. Although these are tumultuous times, Americans are not as divided as it appears. In our state of Maryland, which surrounds our nation's capital, we have shown a better path forward. I'm a Republican governor elected in the most democratic state in America. And for 8 years, we have brought together all of our citizens, regardless of age, race, gender, faith, or party affiliation, to achieve, thank you, to achieve bipartisan common sense solutions to the serious problems that face us. When COVID-19 struck our shores, I was chairman of America's governors, as governors on both sides of the aisle stepped up on the front lines together. We understood that in times of crisis, partisan politics must be put aside. In spite of our differences, there is far more that unites us than that which divides us. We have not given up on the values of freedom and democracy. What we want are leaders who can discuss and debate with as much civility as passion, and with a view to persuade, not to intimidate, to encourage, not to demonize or defeat. We believe that free and fair trade can be mutually beneficial. Our desire is to work together with our allies for peace and prosperity. We still believe that everyone deserves a shot at their dreams. And we still believe in a nation where an immigrant born on a chicken farm in Jeolnam-do province in Korea can grow up to become the very first Korean-born First Lady of any state in American history. Yet even as we remain hopeful and confident in the values of the free world, we must not fail to recognize that we are at a fragile and dangerous moment in history. Authoritarianism has always been most dangerous when challenged and on the decline. Last year, Mikhail Gorbachev spoke at this very forum in Jeju. Sadly, we just weeks ago lost him, and many of the other great leaders, like Reagan, who brought about the peaceful end of the Cold War, are no longer with us. The task of ensuring peace and prosperity in our time now falls to the world leaders here today at this Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. Let all of us rise to the challenge and meet this moment. Let us all work together toward peace, prosperity, and a better future for all those who seek it. Let us stand united behind the enduring values of freedom and democracy. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Governor, for your inspiring message of hope and for reminding all of us that it is freedom and democracy that serves as the foundation for realizing prosperity and peace. So thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude the opening ceremony, we have one more special congratulatory message. Khaled Kiari, the Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific at the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, has sent us a special video message. Why don't we take a look?
Excellencies, distinguished guests, for 2 decades, the Jeju Forum has promoted understanding and cooperation in the region and beyond through dialogue, thus making a meaningful contribution to progress and peace. Through your leadership, you are fulfilling the Republic of Korea's critical bridging-building role. We meet at a moment of profound opportunity and challenge for multilateralism. It is a time of change and choice. We confront global crises that are heightening the risk of miscalculation and escalation, with potentially devastating consequences. At this critical moment, the world needs inspirational acts of cooperation. Making diplomatic progress on the nuclear and other issues on the Korean Peninsula would be a significant boost to regional peace and security and an important contribution to the global nuclear non-proliferation regime. Leaders must summon the political will that this moment requires. Success will depend on working together, recognizing our interdependence and shared interests. It is here we must expand, build, and leverage the tremendous strength of this region to innovate and provide the solutions the world is looking for. We also need to ensure that our efforts are inclusive. Women and youth must have a seat at the table, forging solutions that combine peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights. I welcome more forward-looking relations and stronger cooperation on matters of regional peace and security, strengthening crisis communication mechanisms, and building on previous agreements. It is critically important to continue moving in this direction with emphasis on mutual trust, confidence building, and preventive diplomacy. I wish you a productive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to thank the Assistant Secretary General for sending us his special congratulatory message. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to conclude the opening ceremony of the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2022. Today is only day one of the forum and there is much to follow, so we look forward to your active participation and interest at this year's Jeju Forum. On behalf of our host, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us this morning. Thank you.